on a whim. I may cut it off on a whim. I because I do not know. Cult Rejects is going live at 8, and I'm not sure if there's a panel with room for me on it. And I'm interested. I'm hanging. I don't have work tomorrow. This I'm pretty fucking sure. So yeah. In the meantime, I thought I'd use for a minute. Um, Today I did my show with Stein. Everything was good. Then I went out to have a good afternoon hanging out with friends. Good lunch. Some good gaming. Did some card trades, that kind of thing. Put that little bit of time in for it. And yeah. And I've been thinking to myself a little bit about the social order shift, right? It is a strange kind of world that we're living in now, where it's strangely trying to be like they've always done it, but it doesn't work. And my mind is going, like, particularly to all the psyops we used to know, right? The way they've been doing things for 20 plus years. And the cognitive foundation that they corrupted in order to pull it off. You know, for me, a lot of it, not all of it, because there's been phases, very interesting phases, but a major one that I think is the one that really set us up for failure, because I think it took away our connection to the past, is the way we upgraded the education system in the 1950s. We lowered the standards to operate under certain specializations for the sake of competing in the Cold War. And this was the idea of a Cold War economy, where now, instead of everybody having a general high education, you would have a general low education, and then you'd go into a specialization. And they took out high educational watermarks, you know? Right? Like, I think this was like a high school thing. Yeah, you had to, like, know this shit. Think about the conversation that was happening for half a fucking century at least. Destroying all of that. And you know that deep down inside, somebody was just like, oh yeah, that's the old world. We don't want a world where we could ever produce men that would fight a World War II or a World War I. You know, and we think about that most particularly with World War I, because of how utterly devastating and shocking the whole thing was. And then the psychoticness that within 20 years of it, we did it all again. Now, one could say that World War II, although highly destructive as a war, was and highly fucking fierce at times, was a far more was a far more kind of direct manner of warfare in many respects, right? It wasn't overtly about dying in a fucking mud trench. It wasn't overtly about being completely exposed to the fucking worst goddamn chemicals you've ever fucking thought of in your fucking life. And look at us today, right? Here's why I hate how we got into this war in Iran, which is because it's based on the same narrative we've always had. It's, look, I don't believe, obviously I believe that the IRGC cannot be trusted with a nuclear weapon under the assumption that we're not crazy and nukes are real. I guess. I mean, we haven't done a nuclear test. Nobody talks about nuclear this and that, you know, other than when two nuclear superpowers are having a conniption fit and shooting up. And then we talk about nukes. And that's it. Last time we really talked about nukes was the time that North Korea pulled off telling, you know, the world, accepting that we will believe that you have nuclear weapons. Like, that's how the whole fucking thing that's the way they fucking present it. Like, as a rational man, that's how they fucking present it in the world. That is not how you present reality to me. I'm not saying it is reality. I'm saying the gaslight is that you fucking tell me the truth in the manner of a fucking lie. That is madness. That's another level of madness. That's like double gaslighting. Nukes are real, but we're gonna prove to you nukes are real in a way that disproves nukes. So that way you believe that nukes are fake. And how you want me to fucking believe on any fucking level that you're doing this for the NASA missions, I don't know. I think so much time has gone by, we don't know how to rationalize the way we fucking presented things back then. I'm sorry, I don't know how long I was offline. Hi. Because, you know, I'm paying attention to the road like a responsible adult, believe it or not. Let's see here. Just checking on things. Anyway, so, if our nation needs to fucking collect a mandatory investment in its cohesion that we call taxes, then motherfucker, I don't want to pay for something that you can't fucking sell me. And you can't sell me on the moon, and you can't sell me on nukes. And there's no risk in me denying the moon landing. But there's a big risk in my judgment, right? You know, then I end up getting in that lump sum of people who say, oh, these people vote. People are so stupid. Look at this guy's so stupid, he votes. In fact, well, you know, first off, you know, I suppose you know, for those of you that think that, you know, like, fuck you, I'm an anarchist, I don't vote. That's the first thing. This isn't about the vote. My vote is completely irrelevant, right? Reality is relevant, regardless of who's in charge. That is why many politicians betray you, is they had to lie to you because you're delusional and life goes on and they can't have you, we can't have a thing happening in government based on a lie, right? And so this is why we've had the level of facades that we've had to cater to your madness. The problem is that we don't want to admit as to how much we could have properly known through just common sense, rational, proper thinking. We're talking about we're talking about a trivium process of rifling through the facts, putting it together in a manner that agrees with nature, right? And just when people were figuring this kind of thinking out as the true internal world of freedom that comes from emanating the self from within, without, and how you relate to everything that has preceded you and is up and around you. That's when they invented the woke narratives for their rhetoric, their logic. Their grammar, changing all the pronouns on top of the politically correct, and then just all of it is just, there's no heart in the psychic field of that conversation at all. It's just ding, 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 ding. It just goes back and forth in the brain in a hard way of agreement to one political idea to agreement to other political idea and protocols for disagreement and yada yada yada. And then you got these weird fucking beta cunts going, point of order, and you get nauseated by the whole fucking process. This is why it's these things are, I find them fascinating analyses when certain things happen, right? Like I have some serious problems, on the underlying things about JD Vance, right? But political style wise, how he conducted himself on The View, for instance, like a lot of people said, like he broke the internet or something, right? Like, he kept things straight, and right? It's just like there's a poise that you have to deal with the ladies in these manners, right? The emphasis on manners. And how do you explain the politics without mansplaining, without triggering their cognitive dissonance of dismissing things as mansplaining, right? And I wouldn't say JD did a perfect job. There's a few ways he answered it where I would have answered it differently, but then again, it wouldn't have been like that before I got in The View, because I would have had a different say in the matter if I was fucking vice president. Right? Yeah, put me in as vice president. Ask me how I feel about being the the opposite answer to the Donald, right? Donald is the heavy hand, and I'm the soft and touch, right? And like putting the lean on the Colonel Aquino suspicions. Is this motherfucker a bastard child of Colonel Aquino? Colonel Aquino was a fucking old man. He definitely would have had a Gen X kid. He definitely would have had a Gen X kid. Isn't that a lovely hit? Oh, what a lovely hit that was. Let me go some water. Right? Because people are trying very, very hard to live in a horror show of real-time America in their heads. Right? And the whole World Cup Euro love situation has, changed that. And the way European politics works, especially how I believe it will work on moderate Europeans, I think it's going to change them about everything, right? Like, listen, as a pagan, this is not my favorite thing to say, but as somebody who believes that you got to be spiritual some way, shape, or form, there's definitely for the Christians of Southern hospitality, right? That's baked into their faith, right? They got God's way of saying it, and it's not this dead thing like in Europe, right? Churches are not a lot of, at least most of the churches there, I don't know how to say it. You know what? I'm probably speaking from a little bit more ignorance, but there's a fucking reason why Europe went almost hard atheist, and and now you're having a battle between the atheists, the pagans, and the Abrahamics, right? And the Abrahamics are using the Muslims to chase you back to the to your Jewish slave master. That's what they're doing. They're playing that game. These are the people that scapegoat the Jews, and then they further scapegoat people that want to be Jewish through their Christian fix. And so, the Muslim behavior, which is, this is all in the letter. This is all in that letter to Vincisi or whatever. This letter about World War I, II, and III that was written before World War I, right? So it doesn't matter if the names are not the true names. Somebody wanted to publish them under those names, and it doesn't work out. And that's fine. The time works out. Okay? In a court of law, if let's say I write a poem, I can mail the poem to myself through the U.S. Postal Service where it gets its stamp on the mail stamp. I can keep that in my records and bring it to court and unseal it in front of the judge. It'll have the time stamp of when it was sent. And that upholds. We know for a fact by records that letter that you found out about while we were in the midst of World War III, which is what this has been, that this came out before World War I, predicted World War I, and was accredited to fucking Mason Klansman guy. Fuck. Can't remember his name. Somebody help me out. I need a bailout. Can't think of his name while I'm driving. Everybody knows he was one of the statues that they took down in the summer riots of Floyd. I remember it was a big underscore. Pike. Albert Pike. There we go. Haha, my brain. Thank you. Moonin. You're late. Anywho, Albert Pike, right? You don't want to believe that there's such a thing as fate. And that's why you don't like guys that call themselves psychics, that do tarot readings and astrology and predict your future, and like, no way, I'm locked in like that. And of course, you don't want to have the trippy experience of having a reading that turns out accurate, because you're not prepared to deal with what it means that all that shit happened, right? Right? This is why Carl Jung says you make the unconscious conscious. And a lot of the fucking evils of government are sometimes a pseudo good. Look at 2020, right? 2020 is one of the greatest evils I've ever seen in my fucking life. It broke my heart completely. It smashed every aspect of my paradigm. I didn't need some motherfucker like, on my ass every day, fucking indoctrinating me into a thing. Like, the world's behavior at large and my isolated disposition from it made all the fucking difference in the world. And it's the stuff that the villain arc is made of, right? Because all of a sudden, you see that the people are the villain. And you know that when you're right about that, that makes you the villain. And when the unconscious is conscious, you can make that understanding that when you see the people as the villain, that means you're the villain, right? And that's me acknowledging my villain arc, right? But that's all part of personal development, right? As a pagan, my hero's journey involves not only my ancestral gods, but my current gods. And I'm an American. I've got my fucking, my gods that I know from how things go in anime, how things go in comic books and stuff, right? And there's all very interesting versions of a dark night of the soul, the necessity of it all, right? And all I'm saying with the villain arc is it means I'm not a nice guy anymore, right? I have a mean streak in me. I am not afraid to make enemies. I am not afraid to show my feelings. I am in control of my feelings, and I'm not afraid to get angry at people that are liked. And people, I often find out that People are very insecure about people who are angry. Because anger often leads to violence, it terrifies them. Anger terrifies them. I've shown a great deal of restraint my whole life because little Aries me, in full immaturity of my childhood, was a monster. I was Fenrir off the chain. So, Tyr's been taking good control of me, and, you know, I handled my own choker, thank you. So, on the other side of the suffering process, and then you become, shout out Vitriol, sick band, should listen to them. You spend that time in the villain arc because you know how something works, and you know that if you're not respected, no one's going to hear you about how it works, and you need it to work. And the reason why you're not really the villain is because you actually haven't given up, but you cannot lie to everyone around you. They have to know how fucking angry how you are makes them, right? We're not meant to be like, just because I cannot interfere with your free will does not mean that I cannot change your the results of what you will to do, because that will gets eventually turned into something that comes out. A word, a picture, an action, a movement of some sort. Something transfers from one person to another person, other people, other things. You start breaking a statue because you've rationalized that the statue's the problem. And I'm smarter than you, and I know that the statue is not a problem. And it's not arrogance, it's confidence, because I actually know, because we were just arguing about it a second ago, and I understand how poorly you understand it. Now you're irrationally attacking something. So I am going to interfere. Because it's not your property. You've extended beyond natural law into breaking other people's property. I'm sitting there. I agree with you about the core thing. I'm not going to let you break this thing down, though. Breaking this thing down is not how it works. This thing's a scapegoat. Right? People need to hear just the right words at just the right moment. It's when you catch something in real time that you can say, upon a shared in-person experience has the highest impact. When you're both looking at an event happening from the same shoulder-to-shoulder point of view of it, and you can show them something that they didn't see, and you've been looking at it for 2 minutes, and it's just like, yeah, and that. What do you mean that? Oh, that. Whoa, how'd you see that? Right? My eyes. I can get autistically attentive to details, right? You know, I made good use of my spare time the last few days of the job when there was nothing big to do. Just scanning with my eyeballs for screws this big on the vastness of the floor of what must have been 2 football fields twice. 2 football fields per each floor. And we'd have to say technically 3 football fields because I was also doing work on the roof. It's a big flat roof. It's a very fucking Saturnian building. This building is Saturnian as fuck. It's just a square grid. I asked the guy about how long it took for this building to get raised up from breaking foundation on the new ground forward, right? Like, not from tearing down what was before, like the whole project, just from like the build-up process. But because I phrased it where I said a building that's simple like this or something like that, right? And the foreman sounded got a little bit insulted tone. He's kind of a ball buster, so I don't think he was actually insulted, you know. But he made it seem like I had diminished the magnitude of the work that he had put in, which was not my intention. I said, like, well, no, I just mean it's simple in that, like, it's all square, it's all straight lines and things like that, right? It's not a fancy building. I mean, it's obviously complicated with all the wiring and everything, right? But he never gave me an answer. He thinks I'm very weird. I think he likes me. I think he likes the work that I did, but it doesn't matter. I don't know if next time I might be his foreman. He might be my foreman again. He may call up the company for an assignment. The company sends me his way. That might be the way it is. And hopefully I'll be fucking way less weird. You see, I want to be respected, but also I know when I haven't earned respect. And when you haven't earned respect, sometimes you just got to accept that and laugh at yourself for a while, right? And you got to be able to laugh in the first place too, right? And of course, you know, some people they don't show too much of their various emotions, right? Like, I kind of keep things pretty serious and straightforward. I don't initiate too much conversation because I hate small talk, right? You know, so I'm waiting for something to pop up where I feel like I can talk at length with somebody. You know, this fucking guy I was working with, it's for, you know, his fucking accent as a, you know, is horrible. He's Jamaican. He's got, like, fucking talks Jamaican. I mean, like, I'm not hearing him talk Jamaican, but, you know, his English without the Jamaican is fucking, you know, it's fucking horseshit. He kind of mumbly repeats himself a little bit. Like, so, like, he loudly mumbles, I suppose, but anyway, long story short is, it's just like, you know, like, he's a very low consciousness fucking guy. He's probably a fucking savage. He probably, you know, has a fucking trigger. He's, you know, because he was getting real fucking triggered by me fucking demanding, that he not fucking, like, own me at work. That's not our fucking professional relationship. And if that's the only way you know how to fucking talk to your coworker who is not your underling, then I'd rather fucking do this alone. Because my temperament is not going to handle that, and I don't think it should. I don't think any man should fucking handle fucking a guy like you. Right? You need to fucking change. I fucking know how to act. You don't know how to fucking act. Right? And so there's no fucking conversations I want to have with this guy. I don't want to fucking talk about whatever the fuck he's into. He's not into anything that fucking matters. Nobody's into anything that matters. Nobody believes they're fucking, like... This is why I'm pissed off about them taking away things like learning classical Greek. Like, you had a baseline education. Yeah, you had all sorts of possibilities of fucking doing stuff that makes you special. We have been robbed of an education that we can be special on our own accord. We've been made into a bunch of retards with art supplies. Here's your AI. AI is just a big fucking art supply, bro. At least the AI they give us. And we're not getting to the root of the problem. They're pissed off that we're fucking dissolving the fucking Department of Education. And my answer to you is, okay, if the Department of Education is such a great idea, then explain gender confusion on the left and flat Earth on the right. Most flat earthers were state educated and are the product of rejecting state education and leaning into the Bible. Okay? Because they had to reject state education because the state didn't prepare them for proper thinking. And now they have an emotional attachment to the shape of the earth as if you were insulting the fucking, the resurrection of Jesus or something. Oh, I'm being so persecuted because I'm telling everybody that the earth is flat. Christians are not as good at fucking pretending they're victims as the wokies on the left. The wokies on the left, they really know how to make a fucking tragedy of them fucking selves. They're blaming that tragedy on a society that just fucking said no to it. Come on. Now, by the way, I am a person that also understands that there are so many holes in our understanding of the idea of our spheroidal Earth. Bro, go faster, bro. You're going 45 and a 55, bro. Seriously. And I want to be in this lane because I'm getting off in a half a mile. Come on. Why? Waste my fucking gas. Anyway. you know, we do have a the physical world. It's on an energetic level, has an arrangement like right. The 7D hologram is the work in the anime Scryed, where physical matter around you is eaten up to make the composite parts to build your the thing to manifest the thing that your superpower comes from. Scryed was fucking brilliant. One of the coolest superhero concepts I've ever seen in anime is Scryed. One of the best in superhero concepts. Watch Scryed. S dash cry dash N. So anyway, yeah, like I don't bandy words with idiots, right? You know, I'm like the Northmen in slavery. It's just like I'm a jarl, forced to be a carl, and fated to become a thrall, so I can restore the good name of my jarldom. Or something, right? You know, I must. So, with all the horrid things that happened in 2020, I could also see. You know, I could also see my fingerprints of things happening, things I like, things that were like, yeah, that's the way it should have gone. I thought it should have gone that way. Yada, yada, yada. And it went that way. Especially with legal weed in my state. I can't tell you how that fucking completely, like, shifted everything. Like, I was still, like, I would have kept buying weed from my buddy if my buddy wasn't so busy all the time that I couldn't see him. So, like, I just would go buy it at the store now, right? And then I'd be like, hey, man, I want to pick up. And this is like, I'm not doing it anymore, right? You know, so, like, it happened, you know? I think he's doing economically good, though. I think he never wanted to stick to that kind of shit anyway. That was all fucking like survival, right? You know, I mean, like he smokes from his own supply, always responsibly. He never fucking smoked himself out of a profit, but he definitely wasn't a fucking businessman about it. He just likes, he likes to hook up people that he knows and trusts. And that's how he does business. And that's part of the reason we developed a good friendship. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have lost the weight and turned into this fucking monster that I love that I am. So, I think I'm gonna call it here. This was a good stream. I've reached my final destination. And so it's very rare that there are people that in the real world would interface the way that I do. Most people that are, that are switched on, like there's a lot of people that are switched on, but they're just not, but they keep it to themselves, right? Or it's something that's got nothing to do outside of whoever is their actual social circle that they've built over time, because maybe they was able to cultivate something in a book club, right? And you find some kinship and such, right? There's all sorts of things like that. Yeah, if I didn't feel to be an anarchist, I could have risked doing crazy things like politics, maybe. But not with the irresponsibilities that I lived my life by. I wouldn't even be able to fucking fathom it. Right? But it's just so interesting. Like, with the thoughts that go here, all I'm saying is the only thing that really matters is who we are as people. Who they are as the leaders will become irrelevant compared to who we are as people, right? That stops trusting them, stops liking them, stops respecting them. And you can make it dissolve, right? But you have to have the personal authority in you and have it be cultivated. You don't want to end up like in the fucking Book of Eli. If you haven't seen that movie. Oh, dear God. Anyway. It's good to see you guys in the chat. All right. I'll catch you guys later.